Going live. This hangout on air is live. That's a great moment. I love seeing that. Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Simpson. Welcome to the hashtag VO podcast. Today, my guest is Chris Dattoli. Say hi, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, everyone?
Chris, it's
What's
awesome to
going
have
on?
you here. I'm so happy to be the host of the show and to have folks like you on the show. Before the show, we got to chatting a little bit, and I'm just super happy to have a nice, excellent guy like you on so early in the morning Wednesday. Chris, where are you today?
I'm in Jersey.
Oh, Jersey, Jersey,
I'm
Jersey.
a Jersey boy.
Yeah. Um, you did you grow up in Jersey?
Yes, I did. Born and raised in Toms River, New Jersey.
Oh, Tom's River, huh? What did Tom do to that river that they named it after him?
You don't want to know what he did to that
Uh,
river.
very good, right? So let's chat a little bit. So you grew up in
All
Jersey,
right.
you live in Jersey. Do you do most of your voice work? So you're a voice actor, is that right?
Correct. Yes.
What other kinds of things keep you busy?
I'm also a social media marketing manager and promotions. Been involved in social media for a little over 5 years now. I picked it up. It was actually originally part of my college curriculum, and they didn't really finish it by the time I graduated. And then, like a year later, they had a course for it, so I went back to take it. Uh, in addition to that, I'm also a radio DJ. I've been in broadcasting for, gosh, a little over 7 years now. I've done, internships, different DJs, DJing at different radio stations. So, and that's fun. I guess that's kind of like how I got to know so much about, mics and voice overs and stuff like that.
Cool. So let's talk about your voiceover career a little bit, how it got started, and how you got to where you are today. So when did you first start doing voiceovers? So you did some DJing. You said a little bit of that radio experience. Is that when you first generated interest for doing voiceovers?
I would say it's where I kind of pursued it a little more. Originally, I started doing voiceovers for my local Boy Scout troop when I was 13 years old. We go into like a radio station and they ask for, voiceovers, and that's when I actually volunteered to do it. And I actually did multiple ones for my local Boy Scout troop. It wasn't really too professional, so to speak, but that's kind of like piqued my interest, and that always piqued my interest in radio. So I kind of pursued radio, and since then I dived into that, got my, BA in broadcasting and all that other good stuff.
Cool. So you mentioned that you worked in radio and you sort of got used to the equipment, and that's the one thing that you felt was suited to you when you started doing voiceovers. You felt comfortable with the microphones. You sort of, in a sense, knew what you were talking about, like about those things. What other skills or knowledge did you feel as you were just starting doing your voiceovers? Did you feel were well suited to you to pursue voiceovers?
Well, it wasn't until I actually saw a show called Avatar: The Last Airbender, where I actually am like, this is kind of cool. I do, I like doing voices and everything. And then I actually did some research, and it wasn't with my friend at the time, who is now actually my girlfriend, said, hey, well, hey, she does voiceovers as well. So she's like, well, hey, I know this website. Why don't you go there? It's called voiceactingalliance.com. Do there. And that's when I did a lot of like indie projects. And then I got my first paid role on there. And then she brought me to another website called ACX, which dives in audiobooks. So that's actually, and I love, I'm a father, so I love reading stories to my kids. So it's a great way to, kind of read stories to everyone. It's because you're taking the characters. Because how many times have you read a book and you thought, I wonder what this guy sounds like? Yeah, I wonder what like this villain sounds like. I would love, because in your head you picture the voices, and then I try to bring it to life for the people. I'm like, all right, how would this guy sound? Maybe I'll do like the deep voice, or hey, maybe he has like a high pitched voice, stuff like that.
So you do a lot of audiobooks, is that right? I think you mentioned you've done a few.
Yes, I did approximately about 8 right now. It's a little I'm looking to do more. Unfortunately, with my other job right now, my schedule's insanely busy. I'm always trying to dive into more right now. Yeah, I'm up to about 8 right now. They have no, like, there's no niche, whereas my girlfriend, she has a niche of like sarcastic teenager, and a lot of friends who I'm into the voice over world, they're like, oh, my niche is this, my niche is this. I'm saying, I'm like, I haven't had my niche yet. I'm very versatile. I did one was an erotic novel, next one I was a superhero, next one I was like a 5-year-old kid, and next one I was a motivational speaker, and I kid you not. And the next one I was a Scottish man. I'm like, wow, I have really no niche, which is good in a way. I'm very versatile. So, I'm like, yeah, I haven't found my niche yet, which is good. I like to, play everything. Like I like to do everything.
Well, that's really interesting, Chris. So you're talking about finding your niche, your sort of your spot, your sweet spot in the voiceover world. And I feel like I'm in a similar place. And I'm wondering, I haven't had the chance to take some coaching with voiceover, any voiceover coaches or people with lots of experience. The closest I've come to that is just by talking to folks sort of like you through this podcast. And by the way, Chris, thank you again for being here. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that on air yet. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. It's this is fun so far. So you're talking about sort of finding that sweet spot, finding your voice. I'm wondering, have you had a chance to do any coaching?
Oh yes, I'm actually taking coaching right now. I had about 4 classes beforehand, and I'm enrolled now in a session. I'm with a company called Global Voice Academy. It's by Christina, and she'll probably kill me for butchering her last name. I can't really pronounce it. So, Milazina, I think you say her last name is. But go on. If you look at my Facebook, you'll see. Just go on Global Voice Academy. You'll find her. She's the president of that. She's phenomenal. She's also, which is I got to say, I gotta give a shout out to her. She's actually the voices of 3 main people in the game League of Legends, which
wow.
a lot of my friends are like into that game. So when I told them, like, yeah, I'm talking with a girl who did Moo, and they're like, what? Are you kidding me? I'm like, yeah, she's really awesome. And also my coach is Anne Garg. I can't say her last name. She's gonna kill me. She's actually the founder of VO Buzz Weekly. I'm enrolled in classes with her right now. She's helping me build, improve my voice. Because I feel it's great you want to get into voice acting. Some people, they get it without taking any classes. Some people do. I feel it's always good to take classes. So it's like an investment. They are costly, but I will say the Global Voice Academy, they are the most affordable and they give the highest quality. Like they're awesome. And I also took classes with Bill Holmes, and I did a quick session with Tony Oliver, who is the creator of the Power Rangers. So,
well, really cool. Lots of really good, little good tips in there for those folks who are looking for a voiceover coach. Thank you for sharing those names with us.
No
and
problem.
We'll be sure to list those out on the website, just so we're all very clear where you could find those folks. Find that information on our blog at the vopodcast.wordpress.com. One day I'll pay for getting rid of the .wordpress, but for now this is a $0 budget podcast that we're working with here. So thanks for bearing with us, guys. Let's keep talking about this. So you're doing a lot of audiobooks. Can you tell me how do you find that audiobook work? I know that I've stumbled upon a website where they sort of supply you with a lot of different options for books to be read. I'm wondering if that's how you've done it or if you've done it another way. How do you find your audiobook work?
One of them is on the website acx.com. Another one is actually on Twitter. A lot of authors are on Twitter. So just simply, look up voiceover authors. A lot of them are. Then you message them and say, hey, you always want to be friendly and not be too pushy. So you want to say, hey, so-and-so, I read your book, it looks really good. I'm wondering, have you ever thought about bringing it to the audiobook world? That's actually how I wound up landing one of my audiobooks. I managed to talk about, the author talked about her book. I'm like, well, have you ever thought about bringing it to an audio version? She said, no, I never thought about that. I'm like, well, yeah, it's really fun. And I wasn't like putting the spotlight on myself. She said, it's really fun. I love it. And I'm like, well, hey, she said, well, would you like to do it? I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. Be honored.
Well, that is one way of booking an audiobook that I have not thought of myself. Just go ahead and go straight to the author, straight to the horse's mouth. I guess that's a really
Yeah.
good tip, Chris. Thank you so much. Obviously, I take all of the best bits that you share with me, and I turn them into hashtag VO tips. You guys can find them on our Twitter at the VO Podcast. I'm also on Twitter at iDanSimpsonVO, and Chris Dattoli is on Twitter as well. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's at Chris Dattoli VO.
Correct.
All right. So we are akin in that sense. So if you want to get a hold of Chris, that's how you can do that. That's one way you can contact Chris, through Twitter there. All right. So you've done a lot of audiobooks. You said you've done 8 of them. Is that right?
8 of them. Yep.
Wow.
Currently 3 are in production. So yeah.
So you're working on some right now. Is that right? You're working on many?
Yeah. Working on just finished one right now, and near completion with my other one.
Do you find it difficult to record multiple audiobooks at the same time? Sort of, they require different tones and voices. Got to stay consistent.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is actually a bit difficult, because one week I'll do, one I'm a father voice. The next week I'm a teenage voice, a teenage superhero, and the next one I'm a British guy. And the British one, it's pretty awesome, but it's also British, and then I'm Irish, and then I'm Scottish.
Wow.
And that's probably one of the most challenging ones, because it's literally one sentence I'm saying in the British accent, the next sentence I'm in an Irish accent, and the next one I'm in a Scottish accent.
Oh, so, wow, that sounds very tricky. It really sounds like you're
yeah, I will always. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, it sounds like you're working hard for that money. I love it.
Yeah. That's why I always say, read over whatever you're going to record, read over the chapter first. That way you kind of get a feel of it. You kind of develop, all right, what's this character like? Because if you're just kind of reading it as you're recording it, you kind of mess up a lot. You don't really get the right emotion. And then you kind of beat yourself up constantly saying, oh, why did I read it this way? All right, let me go back and do it. And you wind up spending like 3 hours for every one chapter.
All right. So make sure we read before. Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually about 1 to 2 hours for every 1 hour of recording chapters.
All right. So that's actually not so bad. For me, I think it would take about 12 hours to get 1 hour of recording. But I'm part stupid, and that's my problem that I got to deal with over here. Wow. So what do you do to stay consistent with these voices? Do you just got it locked in your head? Do you use sort of reference recordings and sort of check back, or how do you stay consistent?
Usually I'll search on YouTube or look up other fellow voice actors and say how they did their accent. And then I'll do the accent of that character. I'll find the right one, and then I'll actually record it so I have it saved. And then if I ever forget, I can just go back to that file and say, okay, this is how I sound. This is how I'll make sure to do the voice. And I recorded that voice with different emotions. I'll do like happy, sad, angry, like horny, whatever, the character's feeling. That's how I'll capture it. So I can remember this is how I sound in each emotion. So I know which one to capture.
All right, Chris. So you're sort of saying it's a good idea to make sure that, or rather for you, you want to make sure that you take to record a big project like this to really get a good idea of what these voices are going to sound like in different situations, and then you record that so that if you need to, you can check back. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, because there's sometimes when you read a book, that character won't come back for a while, and then he'll come back for a sentence or two, and you'll kind of, as you're reading, you'll get caught up and be like, oh wait, how did I sound like? So sometimes you might say the wrong voice. So it's always good to have like a reference. I'm big on references.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So you sort of do that for each character for your books then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of work, but obviously
that's just me. I'm very I'm very over the top like that.
Well, I feel like with these books that you're reading where you got to switch characters so often, it almost sounds like something like that is necessary. You really gotta have that unlock in a way. So that's really interesting, and I've never thought of that that way of that strategy of going at it. So I'm sure some people are picking up some tips as well. Cool. So you did some audiobooks. Do you mind maybe sharing a couple of those names of those audiobooks in case people want to go ahead and purchase that? Are you getting royalties from these books?
A lot of them getting royalties on, yes.
All right. Folks, why don't you go ahead and list off those books? Folks, everyone who's listening, they're going to go buy them, and you're going to get some cash in the mail. All right,
All
Chris.
right.
What maybe tell us some of the books and what kinds of books they were.
There's Jesse's Girl by Otis R. Moore Jr. It's about typical like teenage love story. Boy meets a girl in middle school, and falls in love with her. Then doesn't see her for years. Then sees her again. You know, like a traditional teenage love book. But it's actually really good and really passionate. My first one I did was called After the End by Sarah York. It's actually when I did the book, it really hit home. It was about a epidemic. What was that? Ebola epidemic. Not Ebola. Yeah, it was Ebola epidemic that was happening, you know, in America at the time. So really close to being almost one of them upper class citizen, the other one's kind of like an average Joe. And after this epidemic happens, their love grows, they wind up surviving and dealing with that, you know, epidemic, and it's really good. Next one I did was Releasing the Chains by Lisa Gibson. Lisa Gibson is a spokesperson, and she was one of the first people to talk to, I think is Muammar Gaddafi, who's a prime minister of, I forget what country, I can't remember at the top of my head. It's a book about forgiveness. It's, you know, saying all these different people had horrific things happen to them. One guy, he lost 2 teenage daughters because of a shooter, and he wound up going to that shooter and forgive him. One guy lost all of his money from gambling. One person, you know, had a cheating husband. And it's about learning to, you know, really forgive. And it's awesome. The next 3 books I'm doing is Sidekick, The New Adventures of the Adventures of the New Scarlet Knight. The Misadventures of the New Scarlet Knight. I would say that's probably one of my favorites because I get to play like a mix of Iron Man and Deadpool as the main character. And I get to voice like characters who are kind of like, oh, this guy's kind of like Batman. This guy's kind of like the Flash. So I get to voice them. That's really fun. Another one is, let me think off the top of my head. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to remember all of them. Forgive me for a moment.
Cool.
I think it was, Waste Not, Unexpected Donors. That one actually, it's by Otis R. Moore Jr. as well. That one kind of hit home for me because it's about a father whose daughter is dying. She has a bad liver, and he wants to try and save her. And he's also happens to be a doctor that works at a prison that gives lethal injections. So his wife said, "Come your way. Why can't you just take one of their livers and give it to our daughter?" So you see like an evolution of, and it's really accurate and creepy. Like it's really good. And I can't. And the other book I'm doing is Having Nice Things, a Next You novel by Angus Day. He's it's like a British like apocalyptic type of book. You know, that's really good. And my next book is I'm actually doing a sequel to Psychics called Psychics 2.
Okay. So to me, it seems like your specialties include different voices, and it seems like you are able to do a lot of different voices. Do you mind maybe sharing with us some of those specialty voices that you got? You could tell us about them, or if you even feel free to go ahead and give us a taste.
All right. Probably noon is my most favorite. Would have to be my surfer guy. You know, I can kind of get into the character. Growing up in the Jersey Shore, I see that all the time. But mainly I see the guys pumping their fists, and I just pump my board, man. It's awesome.
Cool. So you got this little surfer dude, the Jersey surfer dudes. I'd spent some time on the West Coast. I wonder what the Jersey surfer dudes are like compared to those California guys.
They're probably all just, you know, going to clubs and pumping their fists. So
yeah, right. Shots. So you do different voices, and obviously that's necessary for you to be able to do a lot of these different these different audiobooks that require these different voicings and different accents and whatnot. So you do audiobooks and you do the different voices. Do you have any other specialty sort of voiceover categories that you find yourself working in more?
Yes, actually, video games. I was in a
Uh,
number of video games. I was in one called Stalker Alpha. I was in one called Arma 3, another one called Equilibrium, and they all were different characters. And I was part of this indie project that, unfortunately never took off, but I actually had one of the most fun portraying it. I played like a sadistic villain who was actually did a transition from, was actually a good guy and then slowly transitioned into the main villain, the main antagonist. And it was really awesome because I said like I had such like a high and mighty voice, and then I went like all creepy and demented. So probably the best advice I got for like, because it's, whenever you're talking to a mic, people get nervous and everything. The best advice I ever got was saying, make it like you're talking to your best friend. Think of your best friend. Who are you talking to? Okay, my best friend is Phil. Here's what I'm doing. That works a lot with commercials as well, because people tend to do like, in a world, beast. That whole deep voice, and it's really just you're being yourself. You're being your own flavor of a character.
Really great piece of advice. I'm definitely turning that one into a hashtag VO tip. Thank you for that, Chris. All right, so you talked about audiobooks, and you mentioned a few websites through which you find your audiobook work. You mentioned one great strategy, which is just contacting authors directly and asking them if they're considering making an audiobook version of their book, and maybe asking them right there. How else do you find new clients? You talked about getting these games, this work in the games. How do you find that work, for instance?
I also I'm subscribed to Voices 123, and that really customizes, like what kind of voices what do you prime yourself in voicing, how much experience you have, what would you like to do, whether it's, IVR, telephone messaging, video games, commercials. You select a list, and then quite literally every single day they'll send you an emails to say, hey, we're looking for this. Hey, they're auditioning for this. And they'll do a rating for you as well, like 1 through 5. I would say, you get a lot of them, but pick the ones that are, closer to what you feel comfortable with, closer to your voice range. Because I actually auditioned for one, and I think, it didn't go over so well.
Can't win them
I
all.
tried to,
Can't win them all.
yeah.
Doesn't stop us from
So
trying, though, right?
absolutely. There's another great piece of advice. Never think you never got it. Just think, I wasn't chosen for this one. It's
Yeah.
all about when people say, hey, good, thank you for your audition, but we're not, selecting you. Say like, I didn't get it. I just wasn't chosen. Also keeps, optimism up and your ego up. Well, not really ego, but, keeps your hopes up and say, all right, not a big deal.
Yeah.
There are plenty of auditions in there.
Yeah. So you use Voices 123. That's a subscription-based service. Obviously, you feel like you're getting your money's worth.
Yeah. So everything in voiceover is an investment. It's, an expensive investment, but if you're hardworking, if it's a passion you really want to do, then go for it. Save some money out of a paycheck a week. Build things up. Start off slowly. Probably a great group I'm a part of on Facebook is called the VO Gear Exchange. That's where people give away, say, hey, I had this microphone. I just got a new one, so I don't need it. It costs this much. I'm selling it for this much. And that's actually how I got the microphone I'm using right now. So it's real. And they're very high quality microphones too. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just voice actor. Well, I got another one that's more really, this microphone didn't fit my voice. So, and all I got to do is do research on the mic, look at reviews, look at what it's made of, and boom.
Cool. So you say you found yourself on Facebook on a group there. I'm trying to look this up. I'm getting pretty poor reception right now, and I don't want to use Wi-Fi because it's just going to make my video even worse. You're choppier here. But I think you're speaking to the greatness of social media. Obviously, you and I are talking to each other right now because of the greatness of Twitter. We've hooked up with one another through Twitter. You're talking about Facebook as well, and there are groups to be found. Obviously, if you're finding this podcast, anyone who's listening You found us through social media, but I just want to just profess along with you, Chris, that social media seems to be an amazing tool. I've met the most incredible people through
It is.
social media, and for me to be able to network and jump into a new career without really knowing anyone is a little frightening. But I know that I can find people on Twitter just like you, Chris, and I've been very fortunate to meet up and hook up with you folks. So, Chris,
As
thank
am I
you
with you.
for being one of these awesome people and for sharing your time with me. Let's go ahead
Thank
and,
you for being an awesome host.
dude, it's
You're
a
awesome,
pleasure.
dude.
It's a pleasure. I'm just so happy to be. This is way too good for me. I hope this is at least half as beneficial for anyone who is watching as it is beneficial for me, because it's really fun. I learn a lot about different types of voiceover possibilities, and it makes me reassess my own career and go, okay, well, maybe I could do that. So you're talking about doing your voice work. You find your voice work, a lot of it through a couple websites to get your audiobooks, and obviously that's going to keep you busy. And then you also find other freelance work through Voices123 through that subscription service. How much do you mind sharing? How much is that a month? Is that like $20, $40? Which one is that?
Voices123. It's a yearly subscription. It's
Oh.
actually $400 for the year. To go to sign up is free, but to go premium, which is how you get all the editions, is $400 a year, and it yearly renews it. Like I said, it's an investment.
It is an investment. Yeah, it ain't cheap, but hopefully, you're going to find that work. And I think, those jobs that are posted, they're always, you can look at their budget, and it's usually $100 or more. Is that right?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah. So you're getting work through there. Yeah, cool. So that seems to be a way that a lot of people are doing that. Chris, are you reaching out to agents, voiceover agents?
Right now, I'm not. I feel it'd
Okay.
be more beneficial because I just enrolled in Global Voice Academy to, get a few more classes underneath my belt, kind of, build up slowly. And I kind of want a little more time. It's all about, like I said, it's all an investment. So I want, work towards my investment. It's all about budgeting too, how much you can do within your budget, start off, a little small, get a few little fishes, and then get a different wheel, and eventually you'll get that Jaws.
Cool. I like the way you put that. Yeah, myself, I think we realize in a sense that first impressions really make a big deal, and it seems like you are exhibiting a little bit of caution. You want to be comfortable before you approach an agent, and I feel like I'm in a very similar position.
Yeah,
Really cool.
and when you approach an agent, everything has to be crystal clear. To make a professional grade demo, the cheapest I've seen is around $900 a demo, and you want to have at least. So, and that's the most I shouldn't say cheapest. That sounds kind of like wrong term. The most affordable I've seen is, that price, and it's great quality too. So, and you want to have at least three. You want to have a commercial, a character one, and I would say a narration one. That's kind of where I'm diving in. Like my character would be like for video games or animation or whatever. Commercials actually where voice actors make the most of their money. That's a kind of a, not really I should say a myth, because everyone who I talk to who wants to go into voiceover say like, oh, I want to do the voice of this anime character. I want to do, I want to be the guy from Attack on Titan. I want to be this guy. I'm like, that's really cool. It's awesome. But understand, those guys don't really make the most of their money. That's one way they make their money. They actually make the most of their money doing commercials. Just saying the word Tide dish detergent or Tide laundry detergent, will get you more money than staying in a booth for an hour sometimes doing animation.
Yeah, that is the way the cookie crumbles, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm wondering what question I want to ask you next.
Ask away.
So I'm wondering if there are. So have you done some commercial work, anything like that?
Yes, I actually just recently did a radio spot for a local nightclub called Jenkinson's. Actually, I could say I can kind of got the job because I worked there in a way.
That always helps.
Yeah. they're actually like, well, they were saying, well, we need a voiceover for this commercial. And my head peeked up and I said, well, I actually happen to do voiceovers. So if you want, they're like, all right, here you go. And I was like, right on the spot. All right, give me an audition right now. Which is always, no matter what to say, it's always the most nerve-wracking. So it says, all right, give it to me right now. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Think of it as like you're talking to your best friend. Don't picture them in their underwear, because some people get turned on by that. It's weird. So to say like, yeah, sorry about that. Yes, picture it as you're talking to your best friend. Everyone's your best friend. Picture your best friend and you'll be fine. Like, don't get too tensed up. Relax your shoulders and just be like, all right, here. So I did it, and they're like, all right, that sounds actually really good. So here, we'll hire you for 3. What's your rate? Well, here's my rate. So.
Cool. So I'm wondering, you do a lot of your voice acting sort of freelance style, and it sounds like you do a lot of work at home. Do you have a home setup?
Indeed, I do. I got my S1E06 X1 mic right here. Got my pop filter. I got a bunch of mics, so this is just one. I got an audio interface. It's a Focusrite Scarlett, the solo one. And I'm currently building my recording booth right now.
Yeah.
So in the
What's
meantime,
that like? You want to tell me about that project? Because I'm thinking about doing something the same. But how you
well, it's expensive.
Oh yeah.
Because you want to have, everything built in there, soundproof. You want it. Probably the most expensive would be the foam. That's
that foam.
Very pricey.
What do they make it out of?
It's I usually call it egg crate foam. It's different, levels. You can actually, a simple trick, what some people do is they'll go and they'll take the bed mattress apart, and little wavy part of the bed that's soft, that actually is good for reflecting the sound. Go to a arts and crafts store, they'll have stuff like that, but it's, like I said, it's never cheap. It's always expensive. It's, of course, the one foam you need, it's the most expensive. And there's different qualities. There's studio kind of foam, studio quality foam, which luckily, because I have a connection and they're already getting it at sort of reduced price, so, which is good. It's phenomenal. So he's luckily, hooking me up. I actually got him his first job at a radio station. He's like, dude, anything you need. Well, I need about, 30 pounds of this kind of foam. Oh, well, I could do that, but it's going to be a little pricey. I'm like, yeah, I know. So, I'm doing that. It's a very small booth. It's probably about, I want to say 4 by 4. It's very small, just enough to fit me, the mic. So in the meantime, while that's being built, what I'm using right now to reflect the sound is I actually take a blanket and I throw it over me, and that reflects the sound off, very well. And I also edit a lot of my audio work. So if there's any like peaks or background noise, I know how to edit it out and everything.
Well, I appreciate that. You're really showing us that, if you don't have a full studio at home, you can make it happen. And that's really cool to hear. That you got to hustle, and you got to hustle any way you can do it. For me, I got to take my laptop computer, and I got it on a big long USB cable, and I got to put it outside in the hallway like that. You just got to hustle. You got to make it work any way you can. So I really appreciate that you sharing that with us. Wow, dude.
Yeah, no problem.
Throw that blanket over you, huh? That's incredible, man.
Yeah, it just gets hot.
Yeah, you got to get it.
In the winter, I don't mind it, but now that I'm recording in the summer, I'm just kind of like, oh man, especially since the last 3 days here have been in the high 80s.
Oh.
So I'm just kind of like, oh man. So luckily I blast the AC, so helps out a little bit.
Well, not when I don't know about you, but when I record, I got to turn it off. It's just so loud. Do you turn it off when you record? It's gonna get even hotter under that blanket.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more here. We're going to wrap up in just a bit, but it's been really fun chatting with you, Chris. Let me ask you, yeah, dude. Let me ask you. So, how do you stay on top of your game? I think you mentioned you take classes and you've worked with some folks. How else do you try to stay competitive in this voiceover world? There's tons of voiceover actors on every website that I've found myself on, every pay website. If I find a script that I like, there's already 50 people who have submitted their auditions, and I'm just, wow. So it's a crowded voiceover world. With that said, there seems to be enough voiceover work for everybody, but we are realizing now that some voiceover gigs are a little bit more beneficial in some way. Maybe it pays well, or it's more creatively fulfilling, or fulfilling in another way. How do you stay competitive and get the gigs that you want to get? What's your strategy for that, Chris?
It's all about marketing, excuse me, marketing yourself and networking. And also, I do a lot of research. And by research, I mean I target the market I want. And a great way, let's say if I want to do video games, I actually play video games, of course, and I play, but I to the characters. I listen to like the emotion they have and things like that. So how I get into it, I'll just look and be like, oh, okay, this is how this scene went. This is how this emotion went. Whenever I'm doing for commercials, I'll actually watch a bunch of TV for 2 hours and listen to different voiceovers for commercials. Because everyone, they watch the commercial, but they don't. That's the key thing. Just listen to what that person's saying, how they said it.
You know what, Chris, you still there? Chris, you still there?
Okay.
You're cutting in and out a little bit. Maybe I'm cutting in and out. I'm not quite sure, but you were talking about how you watch TV and how people don't always, I mean, they watch the commercials, but they don't hear the commercials. Is that what you were saying? Oh, shit. I think you're gone.
Yeah, they watch it, but they don't listen. I hope the connection's working. Okay. There we go.
I think we're all right.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's the internet. I blame it on Google.
Yes. Darn you, Google. I mean, Google's a great place. You can find all the merchandise.
Yes, I love Google. Sorry. I, for one, welcome our new Google overlords.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So let's go back once more. You're talking about you watch TV in order to stay competitive. You watch TV and you really listen to the commercials. Were you saying anything else before we got cut off?
Yeah, I was talking about I actually, if I want to do video games, I'll actually play video games for 2 hours and I'll listen to how the characters do emotions in different scenes, how they react. Because with video games, you're in a booth, you don't really get to see them. So best way is to play video games. Hey, you know, what kind of job will say, hey, for research, play video games and play and listen to them. How do they react during each scene on League of Legends when this character gets attacked? How do they react? What was the voiceover for that? You know, it's a great little way to kind of keep in your A game. It's a good little research tool.
Cool. Well, you're making voiceover sound like it's the best job in the world, and you're absolutely right. You get to play video games, you get to watch TV, and sometimes you get to do a little bit of work and do some voiceover acting as well. Now, that sounds really fun. And I think that's a really great tip. If you want to do commercials, listen to commercials. If you want to do video games, play video games. You got to listen to the actors who are doing what you want to do. Find out what they're doing, and find out what they're doing, how they're succeeding. Don't copy them all the time. Sometimes they have good bits, and sometimes you gotta make it work on your own. Cool. So that's a really great way to stay on top of your game. You mentioned you also do coaching as well. So I think that sounds like a really great strategy. And you know, it's playing games. You mentioned that a voiceover career is about investing in your career. Playing video games, maybe not so much investing, but it's investing time, and that's valuable study. So that's really great.
It's research.
It is research, and that's investment. I'm wondering if you have any tips, if you could think of maybe a younger Chris Dattoli. And am I saying that right? Dattoli? It sounds like
Dattoli.
Dattoli, excuse me. Yeah. I'm saying it's Italian.
No, it's okay. I am Italian, so you know it's both ways I say it. You know, I talk with my hands a lot, so as you probably see there.
I can't say those the what is it, the dentalized T without doing a little bit. Dattoli. I gotta Dattoli. It's in the hand somewhere. I don't know how.
Yeah, it is. The hands do help, believe it or not.
It really does help. So I'm wondering if you could think of a younger Chris Dattoli, or even just folks who are early in their voiceover career and are thinking about giving it a go. Maybe they're having second thoughts. Maybe they're nervous, or what. Or maybe you can think of the younger Chris Dattoli and maybe the issues or worries that you had as a younger VO. What tips do you have for new VOs? What do you think?
All right, some tips I have is whenever you're recording, a good way to break that little p sound is put your finger in front of your lips. That way it breaks the sound, or put a pencil, whatever works. That way the P isn't so hard. Take every criticism well. Sometimes some people will be harsh. Some people will be very, forgiving. But don't take each criticism, that they're beating you up. Sometimes they will, but they're trying to make you a better person. They want you to grasp it. If the harsher they are, the better they want you to be. Never say that you're a failure. Say like, I failed. I didn't get this job. You didn't. You just weren't selected. There are plenty of auditions out there. You will get them. Just keep at it. And you just weren't chosen for this one. You were chosen for the next one. A good investment is, if you want to start off slow, maybe a USB mic starting off. That's actually how I recorded my first book, is with a USB mic. I use the Blue Snowball, which is a very popular mic. Start off with that. Get a feel for it. Put a $40 investment in that. Try a few indie projects and say, if this is what you really want to do, pursue it further. Get yourself a blanket. Drink a lot of water, and warm up every single morning before you do your voice work. Every time before you record, warm up. The voice work. There's a lot of good vocal warm-up techniques out there. That's search on YouTube, and it's really great. And never record as soon as you wake up in the morning. Your voice is not right.
No, unless you're doing the super low ones. That's when I find I'm best. I can't even do it right. In a world, I'm too warmed up. I can't. In a world. Yeah. The low stuff really seems to come out for me in the morning. Really good tips.
Yeah.
Anything else that I feel like I cut you off there? Anything else that you were going to mention?
Let me think for a second. I think I'm okay. Just never get up. Always pursue it. Go on these websites, audition for many indie projects as well. And actually, I would have to say, although they're fun and they're awesome, try to veer away from fan dubs, because you can never really put it on your resume. I've done a few in my own spare time with one of my best friends. We have a good time with it, but this is not something I can really put on my resume, because I'm just kind of copying the character, and it is kind of illegal in a way.
So
you have to say, good.
I'm sorry to cut you off there. Fan dubs are like taking an existing cartoon or show and just sort of redoing it with your own voiceover.
Redubbing it, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was actually advice I got from a professional. He goes, well, stay away from fan dubs. He's like, they're not really, it's good practice. It's always fun to do it, but if you're going for a professional, you want to kind of veer away from that.
That's a perfect tip right there. Thank you, Chris. Well, Chris, I think that's a great place for us to end the podcast. We're going to go ahead and end the broadcast now. We can chat a bit afterwards here. Right. I just want to say thank you for spending your time with me and sharing your knowledge. Thank you so very much, Chris. I'm truly humbled and honored to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored to be a part of it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm blessed. I love doing this kind of stuff.
It's absolutely my pleasure. This is a really cool opportunity for me to meet the people behind the microphone, the faces that we don't always get to see. I think it's always funny to meet these voiceover actors who they always sound so confident in their demos and I don't want to say confident, but just so, I don't know, everything they say is just perfect, right? But then, we meet people and we realize, oh, you're a person just like me. You fumble over your words a little bit. I'm not saying you're fumbling over your words, but I'm saying, I fumble over my words in real life. And people ask me, they're like, Dan, you stutter all the time. How do you do voice acting? And I'm like, well, that's why they call it acting. We're different behind the microphone. So it's awesome for me to meet the man behind the microphone, and for me to
as it is with me.
Yeah, for me to glean as many tips as I can from you. I'm going to go ahead and share these as #VO tips through Twitter, and you could find this podcast through our website, the blog website at @thevopodcast.wordpress.com. You could find us on YouTube. You could find us on Twitter. And all these tips that Chris has shared, as well as some of his gear selections that he has shared with us, we'll go ahead and give you some links so you can find those as well. Once again, Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate having you here. And
Thank you for having me, Dan.
absolutely the most luck to you in your voiceover career and continued
Thank you.
success to you. Thank you, Chris. Well, we're going to go
Thank
ahead and
you.
end
You
it
as
right
well.
there. You're the man, Chris. You have an awesome day. Everyone have a great time in your life. We will talk to you soon from the VO podcast. My name is Dan Simpson. Have a great day. Bye. I love you.